Picture this. You finally take the plunge. You quit your day job, drain your savings, and you're pulling these crazy late nights because you truly believe your business idea is going to change the world. In your head, it's absolutely perfect. You launch fully expecting a massive flood of customers to just rush in. But crickets. The stark reality hits. Weeks drag into months, sales are painfully flat, the bills keep piling up, and eventually, the business shuts down.
And that romanticized dream crashing into reality, well, it brings us to a frankly shocking statistic. 90%. That's right, about 90% of startups eventually fail. Only a tiny fraction actually make it to become lasting companies. So you've kind of got to ask yourself, why? Is it just bad luck? Are their ideas completely terrible? Or are there specific traps that almost every single failed company falls into? Spoiler alert, it's rarely just one isolated mistake. In this explainer, we're going to decode the biggest reasons businesses fail, and way more importantly, how you can avoid these exact traps yourself.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the product and market trap. This right here is where most entrepreneurs make their very first and honestly most fatal miscalculation. Startup failure is like a giant puzzle of bad moves, usually starting with these 3 product-focused errors. No market demand, ignoring customer feedback, and misunderstanding the competition. But the absolute #1 reason startups fail is that very first point. They build something nobody actually wants. Founders get so emotionally attached to their vision, they think a product is amazing just because they like it, completely forgetting to ask if anyone else will actually open their wallet for it.
Let's look at a hypothetical scenario that perfectly nails this danger. I call it the useless water app. Imagine spending a whole year and a small fortune building an incredibly expensive app whose sole purpose is to remind people to drink water every hour. You launch it, super hyped, only to realize, wait a second, there are literally hundreds of free apps that already do exactly this. The founder might have thought it was a cool project, but it solves absolutely 0 real market problems better than what's already out there.
So in stark contrast to that water app disaster, let's look at the actual flow for success. Look at step 1. Identify a real problem. That absolutely has to happen before you write a single line of code or build a prototype. Think about Airbnb. They saw travelers wanted cheaper places to stay and homeowners had empty rooms. Or Uber. They realized getting a cab in the city was a total nightmare. They identified genuine problems first, talked to the market, and then built the solution. Never build in a bubble. Which leads us perfectly to this quote. Customers are the people using your product every day. Their opinions are incredibly valuable. It sounds super obvious, right? Yet so many founders get so incredibly defensive about their baby that when customers complain, they just ignore them. Arrogance is a startup killer. If you refuse to listen to your users, you will absolutely lose them to a competitor who is willing to improve. And hey, competition isn't a bad thing. It actually proves people want what you're selling. The trick is using that customer feedback to stand out.
Moving right along to Section 2, surviving the money pit.
So let's say you've got a great product that solves a real problem. You're completely safe, right? Nope, not quite. A lot of folks think businesses fail just because they don't make enough profit. But usually it's because they stumble into one of these 3 financial traps. Running out of cash before becoming profitable, poor financial management, or, and this is a big one, growing way too fast. Trying to expand before your foundation is solid can literally destroy your company. When it comes to growth, sometimes patience beats speed. This trap is perfectly captured by what we can call the $100,000 mirage. Imagine you score a $100,000 investment, huge win, but instead of stretching that money, you immediately rent out a luxury downtown office, buy ridiculous designer chairs, and blow thousands on flashy ads. Within a year, the cash is completely gone, and you haven't even secured your first real customer. Unmonitored spending will bankrupt you before you even launch. Cash is your company's oxygen. Keep it lean, work from your kitchen table if you have to, and make that fuel last. This right here is why knowing your numbers is a matter of pure survival. You wouldn't believe how many business owners confuse revenue with profit. Let's say your business pulls in $100,000 in sales. Sounds amazing, we're rich. Well, actually, scratch that. If your expenses are $110,000, you haven't built a successful business at all. You're actively losing money. High sales numbers mean absolutely nothing if your expenses are outpacing them. You've got to track every dime and know your true profit margins. Which brings us to Section 3, the human element. Beyond your product and way beyond your bank account, a startup's survival ultimately comes down to the actual humans executing the vision.
These execution errors are huge. Building the wrong team, fumbling your marketing, or simply throwing in the towel too early. People love to say that ideas are everything, but ask any seasoned investor and they'll tell you that's completely backwards. It's all about the execution.
Think about this setup: a great team with an average idea versus an average team with a great idea. Investors will pick the first option every single time. Why? Because the business world is wild and unpredictable. Markets shift, tech evolves overnight. A diverse, resilient team where one person gets tech, another gets sales, and another gets finance can adapt and pivot when things go wrong. But a weak, average team, they'll just argue, make bad calls, and totally ruin even the most brilliant concept.
And while we're talking about execution, we have to touch on marketing. Think about the invisible five-star restaurant. You open the absolute best restaurant in town, but you never put up a sign. You never run an ad. You literally tell no one. Even if your food is mind-blowing, the place is going to be completely empty. This totally shatters that old myth of build it and they will come. Marketing isn't trickery or manipulation. It's literally just making sure your target audience knows you exist. If you stay invisible, you stay broke.
Then, of course, there's the mental game. Persistence alone doesn't guarantee success, but quitting guarantees failure. Building a business is incredibly, profoundly hard. You're going to face terrible sales months, angry customers, and days where you just want to quit. There's this myth that famous entrepreneurs just had a magic touch and never failed. That is so far from the truth. Almost all of them faced crushing rejections and massive financial hits. The difference? They didn't stop. They used those failures as lessons, not excuses.
Okay, let's bring it all home in Section 4, the blueprint for success.
Let's distill all this down into an actionable checklist. If you want to actually survive the startup gauntlet, here is your guide. Make absolutely sure you are solving a real problem first. Guard your cash and spend wisely. Build a diverse, adaptable team. Swallow your pride and relentlessly listen to customer feedback, and never, ever stop learning. Now, there are no guarantees in business, but avoiding the massive potholes we've talked about today, that gives you a huge, unfair advantage.
And hey, if this all feels a little bit overwhelming, just take a breath and look at this timeline. Every massive global giant you interact with today started out incredibly humble. Apple was literally born in a garage. Amazon was just a basic site selling books. Airbnb started because the founders couldn't pay rent, so they inflated air mattresses in their living room. You do not need to be perfect on day one. Real success is just starting small, facing the fires, and improving every single day.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly important question to ponder. What real problem will you solve today? Don't just chase a flashy idea because it sounds fun. Look for the friction. Look for the genuine pain points out there in the world. I challenge you to take everything we've unpacked in this explainer, look at the market around you, and start building a real solution. Your journey starts with just one problem. Keep learning, keep adapting, and honestly, I can't wait to see what you built.